welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, you are sounding muscular. As in musk.
Muscular.
Yeah, you are sounding
I like
muscular.
I like that.
Yeah.
Very good.
No, that's a great one,
Very
eh?
good. It's a
You are
good
sounding
start.
nasalized, but it is well. This
And
is
if you chain a few of these together, you might be on my next song.
you know, because these are nice lines, for a rapper.
You might drop
So, like-
some bars originated by
No, himself.
Hey!
To think about it,
Right,
I think
own
it means
raps.
two things, right? You're sounding going through a mask, and you also have some muscles on an inch.
Yeah.
Muscular.
Yeah, no, it's powerful.
I like that.
What are the papers saying, guys?
Well, front page of the Daily Graph, Bernard says of the Daily Graph.
Daily Grind.
Hey,
Front page of the Daily Graphic says that ahead of voter registration, EC trains 42,025 officials. WAEC Education Ministry discuss BEC, WASI, and children solicit for COVID-19.
The Ghanaian Times says, easing of COVID-19 restrictions. Don't rush to open churches. Clergy urges restraint. Government to sanction COVID-19 defiance. President warns. GWCL begins spillage of excess water from Wager Dam. Protests greet ICUM's takeover of operations at Tema Port.
Front page of the Daily Guide newspaper, Obinim fires lawyer, whisked away in style. National security to get Weme properties. 100 worshippers, 1 hour, says Nana. Freddie Blaybacks Bonzo for Elembele.
There's also one called One Man, One Mat. When you come to the boss, come with your mat.
Yeah,
That's how it works.
Yeah.
One man, one mat.
Yeah. The finder says constitute COVID-19 task forces to enforce compliance. Minister tells churches and mosques. COVID-19 hampers railway construction as over 70 workers test positive. EC must be decisive with approach on new register. Dankwa Institute and ICUMS outlines clearing procedures at ports.
Front page of the Daily Post newspaper says that the Ghana Federation of Labour also warns EC over plot to disenfranchise some Ghanaians. Church suspends gathering despite easing of social gathering restrictions.
The Chronicle says debate on use of voter card needless. Dankwa Institute there, and triclarbon in camel soap harmful. PZ Cousins Ghana admits is a material of concern.
Okay.
Now, front page of the Daily Statesman, errant churches and mosques will be closed down. The government has cautioned. Obiama urges electorate to ignore anti-new voters register campaigners. And EC lied to Supreme Court in 2012. DI takes on Charlotte Osei Mahama over voters register illegalities.
The New Crusading Guide says current voters register unfit for purpose. Dankwa Institute. Clearing agents worried as goods locked at Tema Port. ASAP sets record straight on Ghana gas and suspend mass church activities. Treabosum admonishes church leaders.
Front page of the BNFT, a Greek can attract big investors if government addresses land litigation issues, invest in a Greek-linked infrastructure. Government urged to provide exploration incentives, Chamber of Mines advocates.
Let me take you online, citinewsroom.com. Easing restrictions, a risky gamble. Kwame Fojo speaking on point of view. Also, one man, one mat. Government outlines protocols for mosques after ease of restrictions. I love that. One man, one mat. Also, churches mosques directed to form COVID-19 task forces ahead of reopening. And Imani Asepa petition Otumfuo over EC's decision to compile new register. If you go to citybusinessnews.com, first virtual business forum comes off today. Also, day one of Unipass rollout fraught with delays at Tema and Takra reports. Other stories. ASEP insists Ghana Gas cannot act as national gas aggregator and local firms must tap into COVID-19 opportunities. This is Michael Koto. MyJoyOnline.com lead story. Akufo-Addo 1 million per constituency was a scam. Also, EC must be decisive with approach on new register according to Dankwa Institute. Religious Affairs Minister also in the news. There will be random checks at churches, mosques to ensure compliance. And government lays out protocols for churches as they open from June 7. Star FM, George Floyd. Police warns against anti-US demo in Ghana. Other stories. Voters register. Bernard Mona faces CID today. Meanwhile, Akufo-Addo condemns George Floyd murder in America, and government, of course, unveils easing of restrictions. Let me take you to GNA quickly. They are also leading with this story. Government to close down religious institutions who flout anti-COVID-19 directives. Incums take over at Temaport on June the 1st. And then there's a very interesting feature. Medical fees, a major challenge to victims of rape and defilement. It's a story that they posted a couple of days ago. Let me take you across the world. BBC, Trump threatens to send in army to end unrest. Protesters tear gas to clear path for Trump. He walked to a church to take a photo. They cleared the protesters with tear gas. That's what the BBC is leading with. And there's an interesting question they're asking. How are African Americans treated by the law? This is from the US. CNN is also leading with that story. Trump threatens to call in troops, but unrest goes on. Meanwhile, Trump is a gift wrapping a propaganda win for China. This is an analysis of CNN. And then there's a rare view of public dissent from Facebook employees. That's also something that I know you will keep an eye on as one of the stories. Let me take you to Nigeria quickly. They record 416 new cases. COVID-19 infections in Nigeria, 10,578. Hey. Meanwhile, their presidential task force lifts ban on religious gatherings as well. So it's like we are in this boat, same boat together. East Africa is really just talking about rise in COVID-19 plans, derailing Rwanda's plan to lift lockdown. So they are still in lockdown. Kenya crosses the 2,000 mark. It's interesting how West Africa has so many cases. East African countries don't seem to have that many. That's the story from the East African. So, Godfred, let's start with you.
No, Bernard, you should start because the big story came from the churches.
Yes.
And mosques. And
Okay, from yesterday's last minute
Yes,
press briefing. So,
yes.
Nathan will start with the times and I'll give you some additional notes from the main websites.
Well, it seems the clergy is still having cold feet because the Christian Council of Ghana is advising its members to exercise restraint in the reopening of churches following government's partial ease of restrictions on social gatherings to control the surge of the coronavirus. Chairman of the council, Most Reverend Dr. Paul Kabnabuafo, speaking in an interview with the Ghanaian Times yesterday, insisted that though the news on resumption of religious activities was welcoming, quote, ample preparation and strategizing is critical at this time, end quote. Now he says, or he continues, another quote, there is no need to rush in opening the churches this Sunday. We need to plan, train and educate our members on how we can effectively implement the protocols so that the church can be the point of reference. Else, things will get out of hand.
Lots of different angles. GNA says government to close down religious institutions who flout anti-COVID directives. That's the angle they use. And they say Minister for Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs, Kofi Samuel Jameshi, has announced that religious institutions that flout the laid-down protocols announced by the president to ease restrictions on social gatherings will be closed down. He said the leaders in charge would equally be held liable, adding that district assemblies and monitoring teams would monitor and ensure compliance with the directive. Then they also give the background. The president, in his 10th update, announced that he had eased the restrictions. Now, at a press briefing in Accra on Monday, he outlined the guidelines to back the easing of restrictions for persons in Christian and Muslim services. Now, let me take you to some of the details. If you go to citynewsroom.com, churches must directed to form COVID-19 task forces ahead of return. So the Minister of Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs has tasked churches and mosques to form COVID-19 task forces as part of measures to ensure safe meeting places amid the COVID-19 pandemic. According to the minister, the task forces will ensure strict compliance to the precautionary measures. Now, some of the measures include they must form a task force comprising members who are preferably health workers. They must be health trained or train in health promotion measures, infection prevention and control and evacuation procedures by GHS. The task force should call 112 or 311 for support to enable evacuation of anyone. And then other guidelines include churches are to ensure no handshakes, no hugging, no spitting policy at all time, no crowd dancing and waving of handkerchiefs. So the praise is like, handkerchief. No, you can be arrested for that.
You can't sing
No
certain
handkerchief.
songs.
Microphones are to be sanitized immediately after each use. We did that on our prayer program.
Yeah.
All persons who speak or sing in church must wear face masks during service. Churches are to discourage singing in groups. So choir, disbanded choir. Discourage singing in groups.
Pre-recorded songs
And instead use
solos.
pre-recorded songs and solos. Pre-packaged communion bread and wine should be picked at the entry point. That's easy. Place offering bowls at the entrance and exit points for members to give offering and tithe when entering or on their way out of church. Encourage cash transfers via mobile money or mobile banking. In observance of social distancing protocols, laying on of hands should not be allowed. Now, for mosques, they are to ensure each worshipper uses their own mat or disinfected mat, hence one man, one mat. Ablution should be performed at home before coming to the mosque. Worshippers are to use easily removable footwear such as slippers, no kambu. Allow people to come out of the mosque to collect their slippers one after the other instead of crowding at the entrance. Bowls for offering are to be placed at the entrance of the mosque, not inside. Thermometer gun provided for checking temperature of members at entry points. Notices communicating no face mask, no entry. Provision of hand washing facilities with running water and soap, and FDA approved alcohol hand sanitizer. Now, let me give you a final story on this. Easing restrictions is a risky gamble, according to Kwame Fojo. We spoke to him, a governance expert. He's basically saying that government has taken a huge risk in lowering the restrictions that were previously imposed on Ghanaians as a means to control the spread of COVID-19. Reacting on point of view, Kwame Fojo admonished the government, even though he admitted the government had done well in handling the pandemic so far. He said the recent move poses a high risk to the country, as most Ghanaians were already not obeying the protocols, and he says they were not wearing the right type of mask and they were not doing the washing of hands properly. Godfrey.
All right, I guess that covers the COVID-related stories. Let's talk about the other big story, EC. Now, front page of the Daily Graphic says, ahead of voter registration, EC trains 42,025 officials. Ahead of the mass voter registration exercise for the 2020 general election, the Electoral Commission will today begin a nationwide training exercise for 42,025 registration officials to equip them with the requisite skills and knowledge desired for the exercise. The EC's regional directors and their deputies, as well as regional supervisors, deputy registration supervisors, district electoral officers, and assistant electoral officers are to benefit from the exercise, which involves training for data entry clerks, laminators, and those to be directly involved in the use of biometric voter registration kits at the root. So, Bernard, it looks like we have started now.
That question is also talking about EC.
Yes.
Just give us those details quickly.
Well, that's on page 9 of the founder, and the institute has said that though it supports the EC's decision to compile a new register, the electoral management body must be forthright and decisive in its approach and processes, and they said so at a press conference held in Accra yesterday. Now, the director of the executive director of the Danka Institute, Richard Ahiangba, mentioned the EC's inadequate public education and rationalization as a major reason why some Ghanaians were worried and skeptical about the complication of a new voters register.
Compilation, I think they wanted to say,
Yes,
of a new voters register. Anything else from your side?
Well, if you go to the Statesman, the Dankwasi also took on Charlotte Osei and former President Mahama over voters register illegalities. Now, according to them, there were clear and blatant illegalities associated with the register. The then Electoral Commission, then under the leadership of Mrs. Charlotte Osei, clearly turned a blind eye to the facts.
Okay, so that's on the political side. Let me take you to the port. Day one of Unipal's rollout fraught with delays at Tema and Takade Port. This is citibusinessnews.com. Story by Pius Emir Duku says the Unipal's clearance system, which took off fully Monday, June 1, after a challenging pilot, still had some members of the Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders in the country complaining about the existing difficulties in the system. An interview, an executive member of the Takade district of GIF, Atubentil, said the automatic allocation of customs officers to clearing agents for processing, coupled with difficulties in registering vehicles after clearance at the DVLA, caused undue delays. And then also at the Temaport, some freight forwarders complained about the Unipass system, which has replaced the system which was operated by GCNet and West Blue Consulting. They told Elvis Washington that there are still delays with the system that may push them to pay more demurrage.
Well, Bernard, there's a big conversation about education, and if you go to page 13 of the Daily Graphic, WAEC and the Education Ministry are discussing BEC and WASI.
Okay.
The West African Examinations Council has said it is liaising with the Ministry of Education on how to go about the organization of this year's Basic Education Certificate Examination and the West African Senior School Certificate Examination. According to WASI, it says that for now we are liaising with the Ministry of Education on how we can go about organizing the examinations.
Okay, now I wanted to give you a quick headline on Bernard Mona faces CID today over alleged threats against EC. This is citynewsroom.com. The national chairman of the PNC, Bernard Mona, is expected to later today honor an invitation to the Criminal Investigation Department over some pronouncements he allegedly made against the EC deemed to be threats. Mr. Mona's comments is related to the controversial issue of compilation of a new voters register. Now, the other quick EC story is Imani and Nasepa petition Otumfo over e-citizen to file a new register. So again, two civil society groups, Alliance for Social Equity and Public Accountability, ASEPA, and Imani Africa have petitioned Asantini Otumfo said to the second to call on the EC to rescind this decision to compile a new voters register for the 2020 general elections. Nathan, what do you have for us in the Chronicle or the Finder? What else is big for you?
Well, there's something on the front page of the Chronicle talking about soap and some elements that are harmful.
Okay.
If you go to page 2, for example, page 3 rather of the Chronicle, it says tricarbon in camel soap harmful. Story written by Richard Owusu Echan, and it reads: PZ Cousins Ghana Limited, producers of camel antiseptic soap and other products, has diplomatically admitted that trichlorocarbon (TCC), a chemical used in the production of camel antiseptic soap, is harmful, and the company is taking steps to discontinue its usage.
Do they quote any official of the company?
Well, reacting to an email message sent to the company by this reporter as to why it was using the harmful chemical for the production of the soap, Miss Hafsa Arthur, head of brand development and activations at PZ Cousins Ghana Limited, explained that both the National Agency for Food, Drug Administration and Control in Nigeria, where the product is produced, and the FDA here in Ghana have sanctioned the product. Now, this notwithstanding, she said the company had proactively classified TCC as a material of concern and was taking steps to discontinue its use.
All right, let's go to Daily Guide and then the BNFT.
Yes, Daily Guide. Ubini was in court yesterday, and stories on page 3. And they says that the trial of Pastor Daniel Ubini, founder of the International Gospel Church, has been adjourned to July 2022 by Kaneshie Magistrate Court. Ubini, who claims to be an angel of God, has been frequenting heaven, came to court with a new set of lawyers. As his usual lawyer, Ralph Poku Edusei, has been replaced. He was there with a team of 4 lawyers led by Dela Blagoji of Blagoji Black Sword and Co Law Firm, who introduced himself as the new counsel in the case. The court, however, asked the 3 other lawyers to wait outside as a result of the Chief Justice's directive that only 1 lawyer is allowed per a case as part of measures to curtail the COVID. So that's what's happening. Now, if you go to the BNFT's front page, they are talking agric.
Okay.
And it says that agric can attract big business, big investors if government addresses land litigation issues and invest in agric-linked infrastructure. And you find that story on page 3.
Okay. Now, first virtual business forum comes off today. Citi Business Festival. A story on citybusinessnews.com says the first of 4 virtual business fora for this year's business festival scheduled to come off today, Tuesday, the 2nd of June, 2020. Christian Reboot, the virtual business forum, will be discussing how you can restart your business after COVID-19. Discussants are Michael Mensaba, COO of Absa Bank, Ghana Takawori, CEO of the Busara Group or Africa, Dr. Abdallah Ali Nachia, Managing Partner Ali Nachia and Associate, and Michael Koto, Managing Partner of Confidence. Now, you can join the Zoom feed by registering, calling 020-5973-973. Before I go international, if you have one more local story.
Yes, if you go to page 7 of the Chronicle, there's a story coming from the Ashanti region. It says 16 females have been arrested by the Ashanti Regional Police Command under what seems to be a new crime trend in which the suspects deal in fake Ghanaian currency notes in the region. The suspects were arrested between the period of May 24 and May 29 in separate locations in the region. Now, this was disclosed by Assistant Superintendent of Police Godwin Ahianyo, Public Relations Officer of the command. And he stated that all the suspects were female and their ages were between 17 and 40.
Anyway, now a couple of stories. Akufo-Addo condemns George Floyd murder in America. This is Star News. Says President Akufo-Addo has extended his condolences to the family of George Floyd, the black American whose killing by police has sparked chaos in the country. In a post on Facebook, the president said, quote, "Black people the world over are shocked and distraught by the killing of an unarmed black man, George Floyd, by a white police officer in the U.S. It's carried with it an all too painful familiarity and an ugly reminder it cannot be right that in the 21st century, the United States, this great bastion of democracy, continues to grapple with the problem of systemic racism." Then he says, "On behalf of the people of Ghana, I express my deep condolences to the family and loved ones of the late George Floyd." He also added, "We stand with our kith and kin in America in these difficult and trying times, and we hope that the unfortunate tragic death of George Floyd will inspire a lasting change in how America confronts head-on the problem of hate and racism." Well, if you go to the U.S. itself, protesters have been tear gassed to clear the path for Trump to walk to take a photo. And so President Trump paused to hold a Bible in front of the historic St. John's Church just moments after armed soldiers chased out peaceful demonstrators from the area, clearing the way forward for him. This is BBC's report. And then there's...
well, let me take you to South Africa, where South Africans are cheering as alcohol goes back on sale. Long queues have formed outside. This is on page 5 of the Daily Graphic. Long queues have formed outside shops selling alcohol in South Africa after restrictions on its sale imposed 2 months ago as part of measures to fight COVID-19 were lifted. Social media posts showed people who had braved the morning chill cheering as buyers emerged with their bottles. Now, doctors and police say the ban has had a dramatic impact, contributing to a sharp drop in casualty admissions. But the country's brewers and winemakers had complained that they were being driven out of business. The government has also lost a fortune in tax revenue, according to reports.
Well, finally, Nigeria records 416 new cases of COVID-19. Total infections hit 10,576. But that notwithstanding, their presidential task force has lifted the ban on religious gatherings. So the story says Chairman of the committee and Secretary to Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, made the announcement on Monday through the regular briefings. So there you have it. Nigeria with 10,000, Ghana with 8,000. That was the newspaper review with Godfred Akotobuafo and Nathan Kwao. Coming up next is the Citi Business News. Stay with us.